Hi. uh, Hi, my name is Phoebe Torrance. This is really hard to do. It's not an easy thing to be on camera and to talk as yourself, so good job to everyone who actually does that. I'm making this video because I've always suffered with lots of mental problems, and for many years I didn't really talk about it. I only talked about it to my family and my friends, and even then I don't know how much they actually knew, because I tended to be quite secretive about it. And the reason why I was so secretive about it is because it has so many negative connotations, and at school and everything you see on TV, I mean, it's definitely changing over the past few years, but it never felt like the norm, and I still get really scared that people are gonna somehow think I'm crazy or not able to do things because I've suffered with various things. So I wanted to give a little breakdown about what I've been through, and how I plan on kind of explaining it to you guys. So I developed an eating disorder when I was about 13. I've always been quite funny with food anyway, and all of my friends know this. I think anyone that spends any time with me knows how weird I am with food. So many funny situations. But it's a battle that I've had to face every day, and I still face every day. It's not something personally that I think you can just recover from. I don't know how I'm going to, if I'm ever going to be able to, because my relationship with food is difficult. I also had really bad depression, which is like a constant wave. It's kind of like the sea. The waves come when you least expect it. There's no way to control it. Sometimes they're really big, sometimes they're really small. And also anxiety. I mean, I think pretty much everyone has anxiety, because life is really scary and it's really hard to be human and to communicate with other humans and succeed and everything. But I think obviously there are varied cases, and mine has been quite bad quite a few times. Also, I struggle with self-harm. It's something that not many people know about. But I want to do videos like this where I can explain so that others can understand, and those who are going through similar situations can also feel less alone. The more I opened up about my situations, the more people in my life opened up to me about them, and the more I kind of realized how similar we all were. And I mean, you guys know from following me over the past few years, I've become more and more open about it. Like my eating disorder, for example, was something that I would never talk about, because I get ashamed. And there's so many things. I mean, like even my new recent tattoo, treat yourself, you can't even see it. This is kind of impossible. It says treat yourself like someone you love, because I find that's something that's really difficult for me, and I know how difficult that is for everyone. It's not something we're taught in life, or maybe it's just not taught enough to love yourself and to appreciate who you are and your body and how it all works, because it is kind of a miracle that we're all here. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. My experience with self-harm is individual to me, and every situation is so different from every other person. Whether it be compulsions or a need to release, control, there's so many different things, and self-harm can be such a varied subject. For example, like drugs, alcohol, abusing your body. It doesn't have to be a physical pain. For me, mine was a physical pain, and it's something where if I'm in a bad place, even now, and I'm an adult, it's hard for me not to do. But for anyone else that feels that way or thinks that someone else is feeling that way, being open and not judging, and I think we kind of need to change the stigma about it. I know that it's so great that all the stigma is changing about mental health, but I don't think self-harm has been changed enough. It's such a... It's hard not... I understand it's hard not to judge people who have lots of scars because of self-harm. But I think it's about putting yourself in other people's shoes. And also, this thing, I read something earlier and it's really stuck with me, that struggling isn't comparable. Like, it's not a competition. However much you struggle, it's still a struggle. And however much someone else struggles, it may be a million times worse than yours, but it's still a struggle, and they don't need to be compared, and you don't need to put them against each other. Not every case of self-harm or mental health issues or anything is a huge life event that has caused that feeling. It could be just life, no reason. And that's what I always struggled with. I mean, you're probably watching this and thinking, wow, what an entitled girl, listen to her voice. Like, oh, she models, oh, she does this, like her parents are this. Absolutely. And that's probably why my mental health was so bad, because I'm very lucky, and I'm extremely grateful. And it's definitely a struggle for myself still, that I find how could I possibly ever be upset when I have this and this person has that. And I think that comparison, it's not even just like that. People say comparison is the thief of joy, and it is in every aspect. You shouldn't compare anything to anyone else, because we have no idea. People are always gonna assume and judge, but I think people assume and judge because they might be feeling it too. If they're feeling these negative emotions, you know, it apparently makes you feel better if you are horrible. And I think that's something that we need to change, that society needs to change. Like how at school with me and with one of my closest friends, there were things that happened that were called attention seeking. And I mean, I can think back to any of the schools I went to, and I went to like a lot. There were many other girls too, not just me and my close friend, who self-harmed or were accused of this attention seeking. And I think it's really unfair that this could still be going on. That just because of the way someone looks or what somebody has at home or what somebody doesn't have or what somebody does have, it shouldn't matter if someone needs attention. It should be, oh, okay, well, maybe they should speak to someone and try and see if they can get help. And someone professional, preferably, should give them the time to listen and work through with them and understand why. Because at the end of the day, none of us understand our brains, and it's really hard to try and understand. And that's why there's therapy, that's why there's therapists, so that you can begin to understand, why did I go to this action? Why did I do this attention-seeking thing? And I think if that was kind of brought in at school already, rather than having to be an adult and having to face all of the unfairness at school, that's probably just because everyone's scared. Self-harm and attention seeking is non-comparable to other people's experiences. It's also something which can happen at any age. And I think that people need to understand that rather than closing it off into a pigeonhole of, oh, okay, it's these specific people that go through that, and it's these specific people who are suffering with that. There are probably lots more people in your life and my life that self-harm and we have no idea. I think it's a lot more common, and it's not something I've ever spoken about with my friends except for to eventually tell them when I tried to kill myself, because I mean, I made up a very elaborate story, which I'm sure all of you believed. I don't really know, but maybe. But there's loads of scars on my body that no one asks questions about. It's not the sort of normal thing that people do. And there's only a very few people in my life who've ever seen that behavior, and I it's something that I'm not proud of. And it's something, yeah, I'm absolutely embarrassed, and I'm even embarrassed talking about it. But I think that if I'm going through it, then other people must be too. And maybe I think it really would have helped me when I was younger if I'd have known that maybe some other normal people were doing it too, rather than the girls at school who would laugh about some girl going into the cubicle to cut herself, rather than that type of behavior or assumptions, to kind of have it as something that instead of being judged, you get sympathy and wanting to understand and empathize with the situation you're in, regardless of if it's something that's horrible that's happened to you in your life, or just the inability to understand your emotions and understand life and be who you are. All right, so today I talked about self-harm and attention seeking, something which is super close to home for me, and I'd be happy to answer anyone's questions. And I always say, if anyone really needs to talk, if they want to message me, like, they absolutely can. I'm not professional, and I will 100% recommend you to some professionals who are really good at their job, like Papyrus. They have a hope line, which is 0800 068 4141. You can phone, it's free, and it's for them to listen to you, to talk about what you're going through, give you advice. They also keep it as anonymous, so if you don't want anyone to know, or if you're worried about someone, because sometimes it is really hard to ask those questions. Are you self-harming, or are you feeling suicidal? But actually, it's not bad to ask those questions, as long as you have the right intention of wanting to help, of wanting to understand and not judge. It should be okay. There is also something else. So this is Kooth.com, and it's friendly counselors, self-help and community support. It's free, safe and anonymous online support for young people. So yeah, there's that too, if you don't want to talk on the phone. Also, with Hopeline, you can text, which is great because it's really hard to talk about this stuff out loud. Yeah. Okay, I guess I'm done.